But I really think that we're getting to a place of like what works for you to accomplish what you need to do for that piece of work. I don't know that there's a static time, like a 40-hour work week that's needed anymore.
Welcome to the Good
Life. What's up, everybody?
I got me snorting out here.
Listen, it was just
Hembo. Let's go ahead and edit that out.
Let's not.
One of the worst intros of all time.
It's a great intro. It's a great intro. Welcome.
I took a drink and then a snort.
That's a great intro. Listen, that's legendary. That might be we might need to make that the new intro every show. Single show.
Living out here in Hollywood, if there's one thing I've learned is that you can't choose your fame. Okay. Sometimes only a very few percentage of people can choose their fame. And quite frankly, that's not you and I. So we get what we get.
We get what we get. But either way, we're here. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got Coach Kabi in the building. Say what's up, Coach.
What up, though? We are your brothers to another mother, your uncles behind the board. And we're here to give you something that you should get on board. All right. I'll work on the second part.
It was close. It was close.
Hey.
It was close.
First part's coming along.
It's coming along, man. We're making progress. Last week, I thought you had it. I think you nailed it last week. This week, we're cleaning it back up. But hey, it's coming along. It's coming along. We're all a work in progress. Either way, we appreciate everybody that continues to join us, jump in, say hello. This Facebook user says, hey to you also. I don't know who you are, but good to have you on the live. Glad that you jumped in. Shout out to everyone on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We appreciate you checking out the show, the podcast. That's right. And again, everybody that's been engaging on any of the platforms, we appreciate it because, again, we do this to talk about these topics around health and wealth and how we can start to design our ideal life, or as Coach says, design the life that you don't need a break from. Oh, it's Vicky. What's up, Vicky? Good to see you. Glad you are tuning in. Glad to have you here.
Thanks,
again,
Vicky.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we got a shaker. Look at that.
Yeah, that's the thank yous. That's the thank yous. I figured that out.
That's the thank yous.
Clap for the crowd.
That's right. Vicky, I still got to call you. I didn't forget. Don't worry. Life is busy, but it's okay. I'm going to get to you. I didn't forget. I'm going to give you a call. I'll never forget. But for everybody else, hey, make sure you're in our Facebook group. In case you didn't know, our Facebook group is where we're giving you all of the additional access outside of this 45-minute to an hour-long podcast that we have here. We're giving you the added value, the added details, the added benefits over there in our Facebook group. So feel free to jump in there. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Our next workshop, part of a mini series that we're doing, our next workshop is coming up July 27th. It's a Thursday. Depends on when you're watching this. It might have already passed, so you should be in the group and you can go watch the replay there. If not, you're checking this out live. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, July 27th, we're coming with our with our mini series and our workshop. It's going to be good stuff. I can't wait for it. Join the group. That's where it's happening.
Click, drop, do it.
Done. Either way, man, how's your week been? What's been new for you?
OG Chris, I'm glad you asked. Not much about the business. Taking on a couple, little challenges here to kind of keep me going. As you know, I believe that we should have what I call a hunt in our life, right? Have something we're chasing, something that's keeping us going, something exciting to look forward to. So right now, that's in the business realm of us really kind of ramping things up and seeing how many people we can help before the summer is over.
Big deal. It's a big deal.
A lot of finger guns today.
There was. Maybe you're just in a finger gunny mood, right? Just a.
It's gonna be the finger gun episode.
There we go.
Get this, Hembo.
That was it. That right there was the thumbnail. That right there. Hembo, let's start there with the thumbnail. That's where it's got to be. It's specifically there it is. There it is. We're gonna take these screenshots, guys. Anyway.
Oh man.
Hey, did you get a chance to check out Steph?
Oh my goodness. Listen,
yeah.
Steph is one of those dudes that you're just like, come on, man. Come on. You know, like come on, bro. Come on. Best shooter in NBA history, right? Probably gonna be finishes one, maybe top 10. Some say top 5 players of all time. And this man goes out and eagles a shot to win a golf tournament.
Menace on the golf course.
Come on, bro.
It's wild. It's wild.
At least they lost to Patrick Mahomes and his tight end Kelsey.
Is that who they lost to?
I think so. I think it was Steph and Clay. Draymond said Clay would be garbage, and he was. and then they moved on to, and then Patrick and Kelsey took it home, I believe.
That's wild. That's wild. Just from an athletic standpoint, because we talk to corporate athletes and entrepreneurial athletes on this side. Like, just from an athletic standpoint, the fact that you can go be great at one sport and then you turn around and can be exceptional. I can't say he's a great golfer, right? But he's an exceptional golfer on top of that.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, extraordinary golfer for sure. That's a feat in and of itself. Like, that's huge. And I think it goes a lot to preparation. I think really, because, I've played a little bit of golf. The skill set isn't like, there's 65-year-old men that do well at golf, right? Like, it's really not an athleticism, jumping, running, using your knees, those types of things. But it definitely is a discipline, a mindset, a belief to a consistency in how you swing the club and all those types of things. And I think just watching Steph go from the heights of being a basketball champion to then in the off season dominating golf, right? He's had like 3 or 4 highlights on Sports Center this off season when he's just over there playing golf. It's a big deal, but I think it says something about his mindset as an athlete and as a champion. I think it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, OG, I'm going to push back a little bit on this non-athletic little shade you threw at the sport of golf. Now, I'm not a golfer myself. However, I got to stand up a little bit. We define athleticism. We look at the run, jump, that type of speed, all on the they call it the young side, right? The fire side, right? But we also forget about coordination, hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination, or eye-foot coordination. We also forget about rhythm, right? We also forget about pliability. All right. Shout out Tom Brady and his we'll stop there. We don't want to get canceled. Right. We also forget about these other things that are part of being athletic. And when we look at that, he's an all-around amazing athlete. When you factor in those things that we typically don't look at in terms of athletes. So I think he's one of the best. I mean, it's pretty incredible. I can't put him. I mean, this might be a 2x2 that we do come up with our list of top 5 dual athlete sports of all time. All right. Dual athletes in sports of all time. Right. So, of course, we got to think about the Bo Jacksons of the world,
right?
The Deion Sanders of the world. Right. And we might even have to throw in a Steph Curry in there with the way he's going out there and crushing on the golf course.
It's very true. And I think there's probably so many more that were great at one sport in an early age and then get better in a different sport at another age, right? Like, I just think, there's a lot to it as far as just all of the components that are needed to be a champion, right? To be great, I think
1,000
makes sense. So
1,000.
What's up in Detroit?
Everything is up in Detroit. Come on, man. You already know. Listen, I've been telling y'all this again. Let's go ahead and mark this now. I've been saying it, and I'll keep saying it. The Detroit Pistons, we've got to look out for them. We got to look out for the Detroit Pistons. And this is yet another piece of another crumb that I'll put in the crumb trail to the Larry O'Brien trophy here for the Pistons in 2025. Listen, have you seen the Thompson twins? You heard of the Thompson twins?
No, who are they?
Oh man, they are these basketball phenom. One went to the Rockets and the other went to the Pistons. I mean, whew, they're like Andrew Wiggins, except they can ball, right?
That's messed up.
Come on, you know I love Wiggins. All right. So, and one of them is in Detroit. Ashar Thompson, something like that.
Sure.
Does that sound about right?
I think so.
I usually nail these, man. And it's too, you know what? People usually mispronounce my last name as Ashore or Asar. So I'm a little, I can't say it. You know what I mean? So that's my excuse. And there we go, man. This dude is real. As we continue to add to the championship roster that we're building here in Detroit. And I just want y'all to know, keep an eye on. Dude goes for a double-double, right? Mm-hmm. And a win. Mm-hmm. All he cares about is a dub. Mm-hmm. That's a winner right there, man. Keep an eye out for the Pistons.
Detroit producing some winners, so to speak.
Always
producing some winners.
Megatron, Barry Sanders. Come on, man. Come on.
True. And take it outside of sports for a second. Hill Harper running for Senate. He's an actor, but he also was a big advocate in the push for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And he went on a nice little run talking about those things. He's actually running for Senate. He's from Detroit, right? He's running for the state of Michigan. So
we're everywhere.
Yeah. Shout out to Detroit.
Everywhere.
Shout out to Detroit on that one. So it's time for now our point in this show, in the episode, where we go and talk about our 2x2. 2x2. And today's 2x2, I'm gonna give it to Coach because I think he's got a little. He's got a 2x2 that he wants to talk about.
Yes.
And I don't even know what it is yet. This is gonna be a real hot take for me.
That's right. First, we're going to give OG here a little bit of information, and then he's going to react to it. All right. Listen, once in a while, I like to go ahead and keep my eye out on the national airwaves here in real estate and go ahead and search what are the top 5, top 10 cities that we should consider investing in the next year or so. Right.
Is this specifically real estate?
Specifically real estate. All right. Yeah. And we're going to pull from Rocket Mortgage. They do not sponsor the show. However, if they would like to sponsor the show, they can always contact us, and Hembo will be sure to respond and get back to them. Until then, right, top 5 cities. And I'm going to give you 5, but the thing is, the most important piece there, I'm going to save for last. I'll save for last. Number 5, Wichita, Kansas. Number 4, Cleveland, Ohio. Coming in at number 3. I was a little surprised by this. I was just here. Indianapolis, Indiana. Number 2, Toledo, Ohio. And number 1, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, what is your reaction there? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you change? And why do you think they placed them in this order?
I have not been to any of those cities personally. I don't think I've never been to Indiana. I've crossed Ohio, but I've never stayed in any of those cities. Kansas, was in Kansas, but not Wichita. Yeah. So never been to any of those cities. However, all of this makes perfect sense, especially the Ohio, Indiana. My thesis has always been, not always, but probably over the past 3 or 4 years since the pandemic, my thesis has been people are going to start to shift to the Midwest because there's more open land. There's more, room to grow, right? Again, land's cheaper, things like that. So I felt like there's going to be this migration to the Midwest. So Ohio, Indiana, for us East Coast people, it's like a close shift. It's like, hey, I don't want to go all the way to Missouri. I don't want to go all the way over to Nebraska. So I'll just start with this Ohio, Indiana side, but it's going to keep creeping over. So I think the reason why that makes sense for people that are listening, the reason why that makes sense is because more people are now thinking about how to get out of metropolitan cities, and especially on the East Coast. They don't want to go too far in the Midwest. They don't want to switch all the way to something, but they're going to start saying, hey, let's just inch our way over a little bit. And so obviously when we have up and coming cities, it's a good place to invest, right? Because the boom's not there yet, but I have a feeling this is where things are going. I've been saying this for a few years, so this all makes perfect sense to me.
OG, you have been saying this for a few years now, and I think you have a point. However, I think there's another way to also look at the situation here. Besides that, people are fleeing, if you will. In a way, they are kind of fleeing, right? So one way to look at it is, the coastal cities are becoming less and less attractive for entrepreneurs and businesses. So as a result, they're heading inland, and the people are following the economic opportunity. These places are making themselves, like I mentioned, I was just in Indianapolis, they're making themselves very attractive for entrepreneurs and investors and business folks to bring jobs. And of course, jobs bring people. So I think that's really what we're looking at here. And also, quite frankly, I think people, to your point, are looking for more space after, these last few years here being closed up, and people finally realizing, or not finally, but a lot of people realizing that, hey, maybe I don't want to be in the city, right? And due to my remote or hybrid work situation, I don't have to be in the city, and I can actually get more bang for my buck outside of the city, while still, maintaining that employment or whatever from anywhere in the country, including these places. So that's what we're looking at here. However, the most important thing to note about this list is that the most attractive city on this list actually is number 6. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Detroit, Michigan.
There we go.
I'm trying to tell y'all, man, Detroit, home values in Detroit have increased 122% in the last 5 years.
Let's go.
Detroit is ranked top 5 places to live in Michigan, and some of their neighborhoods ranked on a national scale. Listen, guys, I'm trying to tell you here. Detroit.
That's all we got to say. Detroit.
What up, though?
Listen, it's again push into that Midwest. What is Detroit? Is it Midwest? Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Not too, Michigan. I would say Midwest, northern Midwest.
Northern Midwest, I guess. I don't know, but again, moving a little bit, like you said, away from the coastal, getting away from the regions that typically have been overpopulated. And at the end of the day, like you said, they're making cities entrepreneur friendly. Right. So people are heading over there, and opportunities are heading that way. So this makes sense. This list makes sense. Got to start looking at I'm in Pennsylvania, so Ohio's my neighbor. Technically, it's right next door. Might have to check out what's going on over there. See if there's some opportunity.
Yeah. Hit up Dave Chappelle while you're at it.
Listen, he's building like a club in the city of Ohio, somewhere in Ohio, right? He's been like a full on, like people can come do stand up there.
Oh, well, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like because like what he did in the pandemic, when he was inviting all these people to Ohio, like I think he's building that out specifically, I think.
Wow.
But either way, let's get over to Ohio. Hey, let's dive into the show. The actual topic that we are talking about on today's show is, does the 40-hour work week still make sense? Does it still work? This notion of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? That's the 40-hour work week, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, a little break for lunch. Does that still work? Does it still make sense in today's world? At the time of recording this in 2023, does it really make sense to say, hey, 40 hours is all we need to work, or 40 hours is too much work? Like, we have to have this conversation because a lot of people are transitioning their work lives, and they're, having harmony in their work, in their life, in their finances, in their health. Like, there's a harmony of all these things. So how much time should actually go to work? So, you know, let's have the conversation a bit. Could be, I'm curious. Let's start out like kind of why did the 40-hour work week come up? Like, what are your thoughts on like kind of why we have a 40-hour work week, or, you know, how this actually became a staple in our society?
Well, being the professional that I am, you know, I did a little bit of back work. Okay. Went on the interwebs, go ahead. And I went ahead and I put in my question into Google. And this is what Google produced. Told me about Henry Ford. Henry Ford, 1926. Ha, listen, this man introduced the 40-hour work week. Why? Because he saw that even though workers were working 48 hours, the yield or the return on investment was about the same as a 40-hour work week. So he said, hey, listen, I'm going to give them back that extra 8 hours. They're going to be happier. They're going to be just as productive, maybe even more. And turnover will be less, right? So this is what happened. Great man, made a lot of money.
And lower and actually improved, so to speak, the quality of life for people. Can we say that?
In a lot of ways. Now, you know, the direct question here is the 40-hour work week still necessary? And I'll say this. I remember writing a paper in like the third, fourth, you know, somewhere, maybe a little bit more than that. Let's say sixth grade. Okay. I clearly don't remember it very well.
I was going to say,
I wrote a paper at some point.
Papers in third grade?
At some point in my life, I wrote a paper. It was not the third grade. Clearly, I'm becoming the uncle that I am. And I was like, why do we work 40-hour work week? Right. Other places don't do it. They seem to be doing fine, if not better. Right. So I don't think this is a really a brand new question that we're asking, but it's one that, to your point, is very pertinent right now based on it being kind of like a shift, if you will, or realignment, if you will, in societal norms. Right. There was no reason to question 40-hour work week before, even though we had other examples in Europe, et cetera, that were working quite fine, highly productive societies and highly productive countries. Because it's just what it was. But now, based on this, you know, recent events and just people shifting the way they look at the world and the way they work, etc., now it's a good time to really ask this question. And my direct answer is no.
Does it change per industry in your idea?
It does change per industry, right? Some, you know, particularly looking at, for example, the EU, right? Some are in like coming around low 30s, others are coming around 40, right? Based on industry and also based on country. Listen, if you don't want to work that much in terms of time, right? In terms of time, you might want to head to the Netherlands. 32.4 hours in the Netherlands. Not too shabby.
Not too bad. Not too bad. But I think it goes, obviously different countries, different societies do things differently according to, I guess, what the societal norm is. We typically here in America, we're overworked. We actually overwork, right? Like it's almost like a rite of passage, so to speak, or like, I don't know. It's just everyone, if you're not like working here, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Right. If you're not, you know, it's almost commonplace for people to be like, oh, I'm working so much, or, oh, I'm so busy, right, with all these things. It's because that's part of our society here. That's baked in. That's a part of the programming. Some people will blame it on capitalism, right? I have these conversations with people here and there of, you know, I think there was a TikTok thing I saw there. It's like, if you've been on TikTok, you've seen these two sides. You've seen like the death to capitalism people, or you've seen like the we need to go all make more money people, or whatever the case is. It's like, yeah, like those are the two splitting sides. But like the death to capitalism people have a point of like, most people are working and not able to get a living wage, and right, we're just working and working and working, and right, there's other people that basically don't do those things, aka like, you know, powers that be, the elitists, right, the ones that have some wealth in this country. But I really think that we're getting to a place of like what works for you to accomplish what you need to do for that piece of work. I don't know that there's a static time, like a 40-hour work week that's needed anymore. I agree with you. Like a 40-hour work week in many professions right now just isn't necessary. We have more tools to be efficient. If Henry Ford was the one that came up with it, well, they were working on cars, manual labor, right? Like there's certain things that had to get done. On our side, some of us sit behind a computer all day. Some of us are in customer service. Like there's ways that we don't need to necessarily have those 40-hour work week. However, how do we change it, right? Like how do we shift it when companies, corporations, small businesses that employ people, right? Like not even the big corporations, but small businesses that have less than 20 employees. Like how do they define it? Are you saying, hey, as long as you get your work done, you're good, even if that was 15 hours, then what do I pay you for? Does this mean that now, and I'm just throwing out these questions, I'd love to hear kind of where you sit on them, but like, does that mean now that we become like all contract workers, like where we just get paid for production? It's like, hey, if I do this and if it takes me 5 hours or if it takes me 35 hours, you're just paying me for the thing that I'm doing? Or do we still have to keep it around the time? What are some of my thoughts, man? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a good amount of that is, to your point, going to come down to industry. There's just certain industries where you are literally exchanging time, right? So if, let's say, a trainer, right, he's getting an hour, right? Or an attorney, they bill by what is it, 7 minutes, 9 minutes, right? So there's just certain things that are still going to be time related. Right. But this is where the beauty comes in. This is kind of what we talk about. But as an entrepreneur, you have the ability to place, force multipliers, right? Whether it be in the form of technology, whether it be in this form of leveraging labor, right? Individuals who can do things to take this off your table or off your plate, whether it be leveraging, as a technology, labor, capital, right? Whether it's leveraging, people, few other things.
Labor.
Exactly. Labor. So, that can change the equation quite dramatically. And I think that's the upside of whether it be an entrepreneur or even maybe in a career where those things can be implemented. So, time is relative. We know that.
So does that mean the goal is productivity? Is that the goal then now as we shift?
For certain industries, yeah. Right. So there being the force multipliers in places that you can actually do where you are being judged on purely production. But again, there are still industries, of course, that it's production and also just time, right? Just because you are, there's just certain industries that's just not going to be possible. But for a lot of industries, to your point, that is possible. It is fully going to come down to production. And I think we see that growing, right? We see a lot more a gig economy. We see a lot more of it where it comes down to what can you produce that I'll pay you for.
Yeah. And in all honesty, I feel like that's where we're headed. I feel like the gig economy was just like the preview of how I think we're going to switch the way that we do work. Because as we're talking about this, I think of people that do have a job, right? Again, we're more entrepreneur, right? So like we're not necessarily sitting at a job where we have a boss or somebody that kind of tells us when to work. But I can understand how someone can get frustrated with seeing that they're forced to be somewhere for a certain amount of hours when they don't need to be there for that amount of hours. Right. Like I can see how frustrating that is. Like, why do you need me here? Why do I have to leave my house, do all this, right? Go for just to meet this criteria of this 40-hour work week or this 9 to 5 type of thing. And I see them getting so frustrated. And that's why, again, they branched out, started this gig economy. Now it's the DoorDashes and Uber Eats and right. Drive here and pet sit here and do all these gigs, right? All these little side hustles, all these online things and writing reviews for people. And right. There's all types of ways. And because there's so much of that, it causes almost the employer to now be like, well, is it beneficial also? If the employee is already thinking of it this way, and that's a struggle, maybe now the employer is going to be like, well, maybe we don't want you here for 40 hours. And because of that, now we're going to just pay you for the work that you actually do. and you get no benefits. There's no health care. There's no 401k. There's no dental. There's none of those things. That actually will alleviate a lot of our labor costs off the books, and we still get work done. If the employees are getting frustrated on that side, the employers are going to get frustrated, and they're just going to make the change. So I believe we're going to get to a place, and we're headed to a place where there's more people that are 1099 independent contractors for other people, for businesses, for small businesses or big businesses for that matter, than we've ever seen before. Like, I feel like that's the direction we're going, and it's going to eliminate the traditional 40-hour work week. It's going to eliminate it, but I don't think it's going to eliminate the work, right? Like, people are still going to work a lot in order to make the money that they need. But the traditional 40-hour work week, I think, is going to go away to this new 1099 type of economy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And it's going to be bad for those that don't like to produce. It's going to be bad for those that like to pretend like they're working, like myself when I was an employee, right? I got everything done in 4 hours. What do I do with these other 4 or 6, right? Because there's a component to it where in those environments, busyness sometimes does equate to perceived production, right? So you being busy on your computer all day, sometimes it's better. Even if you don't do too much, it sometimes can look better and can get you further than actually producing things in a short amount of time, where now you're left twirling your fingers and people can see that. So perception is very, very important. And unfortunately, in those environments, we've cultivated an interpretation, if you will, of like, being busy means that you are a good worker and productive, right? But this is what we teach in schools, right? Busy work. We give kids a lot of busy work and teach them that being busy or appearing to be busy is good. The kid who finishes the test in or the activity in like 10 minutes and says, well, what do we do now, is a little bit of a nuisance for the teacher, all right, having been in that place, because now you have to entertain this kid for the, however long you still have them. Right?
Yeah. How cool would it be? How cool would it be though if they switched that in the education system, where it's like, you finish your test in 10 minutes, you go get recess. like you go, right? Like, you get to go do whatever you want. And then if you see that, like, oh, they're all F's, right? Like, no one's pad, they're just like filling it out and go, then they have to stay in the class. Like, then there's a punishment, some type of consequence. Just some type of consequence of like, oh, you finished your work, but it's not good, so now you have to stay here to get good at it. And then once
you miss the next 2 days.
Right? Like, for real, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, where you can differentiate. But I don't know. These are all things that are happening.
You can find a way to perfect that system. We should go ahead and deliver it to the school system, because that would be very, very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. But we'll see. How does all this affect our health? Right? How does all this affect like how we now take care of ourselves, how a worker would now think about their health? How do you think this impacts it?
I would say the first and foremost is stress. All right. Like we talk about, a lot of this stuff causes stress. Like, if you're truly in flow, 40-hour work week you're not even going to think about a 40-hour work week if you're really in flow. For most people who are thinking about a 40-hour work week, they're not in flow. The work that they're doing is either not fulfilling, or it's not stimulating, or they don't feel like they're earning enough, right? Or they don't feel like they have enough respect, or whatever it may be. And it's a lot of people will list job right up there with like money and relationship as the top 3 stressors in their life. Sure. Right. So, when we look at that, it's a heavy, not just the time, but if the time is such a big deal, then it leads to stress. It leads to, I'm missing out on this, that, and the third. But, it's not purely the time. It's also perceived stress. Right. So there's a lot of people who work. I was listening to an interview with All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Stack, and they were interviewing Michael Rubin, right, of Fanatic. fanatics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that he works insane hours, but he loves every minute of it and wouldn't change anything. Right. So it's not necessarily time. It's also contribution to society, fulfillment of perceived purpose, etc. So I would say stress. Stress is the biggest thing. And sometimes, even if the physical body is under a lot of stress, if the internal state, right, the mental state, the spirit, etc., is in a good spot, it cannot, it can, for lack of better words, it can hold off any sort of wear and tear or sickness, etc., in the body.
Yeah, listen, I think it's nothing to sneeze at to talk about like how work.
Hey, I see what you did there.
You see that?
You get a
hey. But for real, nothing to really sneeze at as far as like how our health, how stress impacts our health, and how much stress comes from the work people are choosing to do, the job that people are choosing to do. And when we can clear that up, when we start saying things like, okay, I know how to go make money, I can do it in a 1099 format, I don't need to spend 40 hours a week, I don't need to wake up at 7 a.m. if that's not my thing, to get ready to run here, to drive here, to do all these things. If we can start to now take ownership, we talk a lot about it here on the podcast. If we can do a lot of the ownership side of things, take ownership of our life, of our time, of where we're spending it, yes, it will lower that stress. It will translate into our health goals. As I always say, if you have a financial plan, it also eliminates stress, right? So people sometimes get stressed out around their money because they just don't have a plan for it. They just don't know kind of what to do with it, where it feels like it's all over the place. By the way, just sidebar note, I've been hearing this a lot. I just want to address it just for 2 seconds right here.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Get them.
Listen, it's just only because I've been talking to a bunch of people about this. If you are a little bit confused in your finances, just a little bit, right? You're trying to figure it out, something. You're just trying to make some strides in your finances, and you do not own a business. You do not own a business, and you have more than like 2 bank accounts, you should probably look at consolidating to get yourself back to some place of like foundation. I've sat down with numerous people over these past couple of weeks that were working through their finances, and they have like 6 bank accounts. They might only use 3 of them, but these other 3 are just sitting, and sometimes I put money in and sometimes I take it out and sometimes I don't. And there's just money flowing all these places. That can be super confusing, guys. So again, if you're struggling or if you're trying to figure some things out financially, like, you might need to consolidate. You might need to just get back to like 1 or 2 accounts of personal checking, personal savings, and start there. And then you can start branching out after the fact. Anyway, I digress. The reason I was saying that is because having a financial plan eliminates stress. Having some resources that allow you to get better in your financial life is going to eliminate stress. Same thing in your health, right? If you can have these plans in place, know what you're doing, those things, it'll eliminate stress. And because we're headed into this place where I don't think people are going to be working a traditional 9 to 5, 40-hour work week, I really think that this is an opportunity to improve on all of the areas of our life that do bring any stress. Since we get job out of there, well, let's do the same thing for our health. Let's do the same thing for our money. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
As always, these things seem to come back to our health and our wealth. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we do this show. That's why we show up. We believe those are the 2 foundational pillars of a good life. And we may be a little biased because Coach G is on the money side. I am on the health side here. But this is what we continuously see. Most people will list what would improve your quality of your life. Comes down to making more money or having a better health, whether it's healthy relationships, whether it's healthy mindset, whether it's healthy physical body, whether it's healthy spirit, right? Healthy as a whole person. Chris, as we close out the show here in the last 5 minutes or so here, could you tell us what are your last takes?
My last takes 40-hour work week.
Oh, wait, hold on. What are your last takes?
We had to get the shaker in there.
Yeah. If you guys like the shaker, let us know. If you find any other sounds, let us know. Go ahead and message or leave a comment.
We'll start adding in all the sounds, guys.
Yeah.
We got full-on soundboard coming up by episode 150, let's say. We're at 127. Right. Last takes. As an entrepreneur, I always knew that it's about productivity. It's about efficiency. It's about getting the work handled. If that takes you 40 hours, fine. If it only takes you 20, great. If it takes you 80, great. I don't think we need to stick to any specific traditional, this is the work hours for our life, right? And when we got into this 9 to 5 Monday through Friday life, I think we started going down this rabbit hole of, well, that's all I'm supposed to work, or that's all it's supposed to be. I think we're sitting in a position where it's time to make some serious changes around it, and it's coming, and I want people to be open to it. So those are my last takes.
That's fantastic. For me, I believe that, when we're talking about 40-hour work week, we're kind of having the wrong conversation. The conversation we should be having is, are we in a boat big enough, as Warren Buffett would ask? And that means, right, in the situation that we're in, can we apply force multipliers to go ahead and buy back our time? Can we use technology? Can we use capital? Can we use labor? Can we use knowledge, right? That's probably number one for most people, to buy back more of our time while still being highly productive, so that it's not really a matter of time spent or trading time for money. And that's the mindset that we have here on The Good Life, and the mindset that I know Chris has and I have as well. So that's the stuff we're going to talk about. When we're talking about 40-hour work week, we're already having the wrong conversation.
It's good, man. That's good. Take us home.
Guys, we appreciate you joining us for another episode of The Good Life. And hopefully we left you with some value. If we did, make sure that you send this episode and our new YouTube channel to a good friend who you want to succeed in the good life. And make sure that you join us in the Facebook group, where we'll go ahead and be dropping exclusive content for you guys. And we're excited, guys. We're really putting out in my opinion, some of our best content yet. Let us know if you agree by commenting on some of this content, particularly on the YouTube side and in the Facebook. And we're looking forward to connecting with you guys next week as we bring some more fire.
Yes, sir.
But until then, peace.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Good Life.
If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to subscribe and like our channel.
If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please leave us a comment down below.
If you're listening to the podcast audio version, we appreciate you just as much. Thank you for tuning into The Good Life Show.
We believe that everyone has the potential to live their best life, and we hope our show helps you get that one step closer to achieving your goal.
If you know someone who would benefit from our show, please share it with them, and thank you for your continued support.
That's it for another week's episode here on The Good Life. We'll see you next week for another inspiring conversation.
Welcome to The Good Life.